Hello.
Hey,
It's nice to
Hi.
see you again so soon.
I know, I was just thinking the same thing. What a treat.
I know. And we get to talk about color for a while. Even though,
Better,
oh
I better
God,
put my black wing pencil down then. I'm sat here while I was waiting.
I
So,
did a drawing. Okay, you chat for just a wee bit. I can't help but share with you the Blackwing drawing I did last night. So, uh,
right.
Oh,
Oh dear. One-upmanship here.
hey, we're
So
all bound to be
I
doing
went back
that.
to the art shop that's in a neighboring town, which I don't go very often. So I bought the pearl. And it had a description by them, and it said that the matte, which Chris says is replaced with the soft, it said that that's equivalent to about 4B, and the pearl is equivalent to 2 and 3B.
So what color is the pearl?
Well, it's just black, the same.
The color, I mean the pencil
Oh,
itself is because mine are called, of course I can barely read it.
does that say
Soft.
soft? I bet it
This
says
says
soft.
soft.
Yeah. I think Chris said that she's found out that that is the replacement name for the mat because
Oh,
it appears to be exactly the same.
and this is
Have you?
balanced. This says balanced on it.
I haven't got balanced.
But
balance.
you've got a white one. Yeah, it says balanced.
Well, apparently the soft comes in four different colors now.
Oh no.
I
I
So
think
you
it's
can't
just a
rely on the
commercial.
colors then to say what it is.
no, no. Oh, well, next time. I was going to show you my moon unit one. Um, which also I think is a soft.
And then I have a one that's a firm and an extra firm.
So they're probably harder, would you think?
Yes, they are. Did I end? I don't, maybe I didn't end up having putting this, getting the picture. I meant to do this morning. So I did a little test on how these
Yeah.
marks were. And I tried to do a value scale.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
That was a lot of work. You did that this morning?
No, it wasn't a lot of work. It took me about,
Oh,
I don't know, 20 minutes maybe.
oh, nice
Mm,
job.
And
mm.
and this is the color of, because it's not focusing, you
That's
can't
better.
really tell, but these
Okay.
are regular art pencils down here.
Okay.
And and when you use the ones that are the H's, they
Mm.
have like a silver gray that you can get by using these guys, but the difference is how they look on the paper because the hard ones don't tend to leave the texture of the
The
paper.
texture, no, they're smooth, aren't they?
They
Yeah.
really are very smooth. And the thing that I really like about having a hard pencil is that you can go over something that's done with a soft pencil and change. It gets a really nice thing where the spaces that the soft pencil didn't fill, the hard pencil will.
Ah,
Mm.
And so it has a different kind of look to it, basically.
Mm.
I did notice that with the Blackwing soft, the texture of the paper was so much more apparent. This is the beginning of the second one, but
Mm.
it just picks up so much of the texture.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And okay, this was my
Ooh,
one.
Mm.
that's fun.
But again, it was very, I didn't want, it was a little bit more textural than I expected. And now this
Mm.
is a very old sketchbook with pretty textured paper, um, which I like, but I now I'm going to have to go back with some of my other pencils and compare.
Mm.
It did
And
see,
try on hot press as well. If
yeah,
you use hot press, which is very smooth.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think this is so what I'm using is this the Stonehenge white,
Yeah.
and it's 100% cotton, acid free, of course, 250 GSM, so it's a really nice weight.
Hmm.
And I don't know whether it says whether it must be hot press. It's definitely not watercolor paper, I'll tell you that.
And it's very smooth.
It's very smooth,
Yeah.
but
Pressing.
I think it doesn't take much when you've got a very soft pencil to have the texture show up. And I started a new one, and I have the same thing as you, Chris, where it's like you can see, even with this being very smooth paper,
Wow.
there's the texture is really there.
Looks
And
like the texture of a dolphin.
yeah, and but you can see that you can get this is with the Blackwing pencils, and so you can get a really deep dark black
It's
with them.
beautiful.
But I can get that with, I mean, I'm not trying to diss Blackwing pencils because I was like, wow, I got to get these. I got to see what they're like. So my take on it after doing it is that it's easier to get a gray with something that's not a Blackwing, that's like an H, some level of H. It's much easier to get a gray, and then you don't have so much texture either.
Yeah.
So on this one, I did a light gray up here, but it's like I have to work for it.
That's how I felt too.
And I don't have to work for it with a regular H drawing pencil. I can pick whatever level of silver I want, and I can just put it in.
What about with your what did they call them? The firm? Did you try
Yeah.
with the firm? Could you get grays with
Oh,
them?
I got grays, but like I said, it's not, it's like I have to work for it. Like
Even with the firm.
I had to work for it to get any of these grays on
Okay.
all the colors. And my first thing is because they still get the texture of the page, whereas when I'm using just H pencils, there's barely any texture. I'll post this. I was going to
Okay.
post this and I forgot. And I wanted to do one with just regular pencils,
Now the other
regular
variable,
drawing pencils.
yes. The variable of whether you're using on the side or the point. Too.
Yes.
I did find that there were times that I really, more so than with any other pencil, I found myself uh really deciding, am I going to sharpen it to make it a sharper point to um well to get into some of the corners where I wanted it to be precise in the corner, but I didn't want it to look really different from the rest of the texture by making it a line that filled in those divots.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It presented
Yeah.
challenges.
But I mean, they're really the soft one of the Blackwing. I mean, I can get one just as black with a regular 6B is sort of the same thing, but the the softness of it was really nice. I mean, you can get a super black with them.
Yeah. I have to say, I did enjoy, as much as I've dissed the Blackwing pencils, I did enjoy it, and I found that I was actually happy that I got the whole box of 12 because I used quite a bit of it. It because it's so soft,
Mhm.
disappears quickly, just like the 6B pencil. That was
Yes.
always my favorite until I found the 8B, but I still think that I like the 6B. So, all right, well, that thank you,
So
Jill.
one
You
one
really
last thing I want to
sure.
say to Jill is that I having having fooled around just in the limited way that I did and doing the test, I was looking at your drawing going, man, she's got some skills there. Because it was just, it was fabulous.
They're just done. Those that are posted are purely done with
Yeah.
the Blackwing
I
mat.
know. And
So
that's
it's
what
all
I'm
about
saying. It's
pressure.
like, I
It's
was
all
just
about
like
pressure. Yeah.
totally impressed with the
Thank you.
versatility that you got out of that one pencil. And
Yeah.
I might not have as much patience as you.
Mhm.
Did you
sure
sharpen
you have.
yours a lot, didn't you, Jill?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got one of those mechanical with a handle sharpness
Yeah.
that you get a lovely point on it. And I
Cal-
use the point. I use the point.
Oh, with all of it.
I tried with the H. The hardest I had was 2H. And I agree with everything that Carol has said, but I couldn't use it on the side for what I wanted to do. But we're meant to be doing this next Monday, not today.
I know.
I go round in circles,
Yes.
literally,
Yeah,
quite
I
a
do
lot.
too.
That's how I do
I
it.
don't. I'm a on the side. I just whatever it calls for. Sometimes
Mm.
One last question. Did you use the sharpener or not?
me.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
I guess mine's really faulty because mine doesn't go all the way down. It can't get a point. It sharpens the wood, but it never, the pencil itself is too big for the hole. It looks exactly the same as yours.
Really, I thought when I took it apart the other day, you said it wasn't the same.
Oh, well, you're right. You took the whole thing out. Well, my whole thing comes out too, but it looks just like it. I don't know if it's a different model. I'm sending it back anyway, but that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is really great. I had like a pinpoint on the end of that thing.
Mm.
Whoa. Huh. Okay. Well, I don't think I'm going to spend another $27 to get a different one. I could have gotten a trade back, but I thought, no. I've got some really good sharpeners
Yeah.
Okay. Color. Color value. Switch our heads. Switch our heads. Maybe to get a good head switch, I'll just run a slideshow. I seem to have lost one of my slideshows, but I still do have. Okay. And we'll see if this just plays. And I see that I spelled urban wrong at least. Urban. I'll share
Trying
the,
some German.
I'll share the screen. We'll run through this and that will help us switch our minds away from Blackwing pencils. Okay. And a lot of these are focused on neutrals. Oops. I guess that started. Here we go. Definitely get a sense of what draws my attention.
Yes.
Snap a photo.
I have a whole series of those kind of things.
I love them.
Europe, they're so different than the United States.
And I like that sometimes you can't tell whether it's water or rock.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
I was thinking of you with that one, Carol.
Yeah, what is that?
Beautiful ironwork. But it was like one of your mandalas just smack in the middle.
Yes.
Such textures, you know.
Really amazing textures. What is it?
Isn't it rotten wood?
I'm not sure. I never could quite figure it out. It looked like a sponge, but it clearly wasn't a sponge. Then I thought
I
maybe
think
it was
it's
some sort
the
of-
end of beams of wood that have rotted.
but
Yeah.
it's such a strange way of rotting.
I love these pinks.
Yes. Oh, man. But the warm color of the cigarette butts really stood out against.
Yes, it just struck me funny. Ooh, that's cool.
Not as many challenging greens here, Jill.
No. How wonderful.
Wow, that's super cool.
I know there's an excessive amount of examples here, but you know, once I got going, it was just, oh, I like that one. Oh, yes, that shows it.
The bricks have a particular allure for you, I see.
Well, again, the patterns that man makes with those.
Yeah. I love these kind of things.
That, you know, well. Piping is near and dear to my heart.
Oh, that's wicked cool. I didn't even see the cat at first.
Yeah, well, because it blends in with the wart. That was the whole.
I know. Oh, it's really
It's part of
great.
that shape, that warm shape.
Wow, those are really interesting.
Reflections can be so fun. Another thing that was really fascinating to me is as I put these slides together, because I got to look more and more closely to each one to see if it really fit within being monochromatic or, you know, whatever the color scheme kind of thing I was playing with, that my eye detected so much more. Like in this one, oh my goodness. I mean, this seemed full color to me because of all the nuances of the warms and cools.
Mm-hmm.
And how in that one, they just pop out as warm compared to the um, the category that you put the rest of it in. You know, is this warmer than that? Is it cooler than that? Not because this is what it is, because these are also warm, but to me, these stand out. Uh, I mean, there's so many ways you could do a texture sketch. I mean, a temperature sketch with this, declaring
Mm-hmm.
different things warm. And it's a little bit, um, well, another time if we want to go into it, but I will be doing some demos on a variation of different ways to do not the value sketch, but the temperature sketch and how very different it can be.
Hmm.
Because you could consider the sides, these walls, as warm, and these, I mean, but how would you simplify the chunk? You can see if you're going to get chaotic or not by how you break both of those sketches down. Does that make sense? If you do like
Yeah.
basic shapes of value or tone, and then a separate sketch of the same thing, temperature sketch.
And
And
what would you do a temperature sketch with?
well, I use like a blue um, fine tip, either ink, you know, a fountain pen filled with blue ink, and then I have fountain pens filled with sepia ink, or a lot of times when I travel, I'll have two fine tip markers. I'll have a blue one and a sepia one. They're basically the same value because it has nothing to do with the value.
Right, right.
And then
Oh, interesting.
um, yes, now I think, let me see. I'm going to go back to not sharing, and while you two are chatting, I'll see if I can come up with, maybe it's here. Um, the just the simple value sketch of line. No. Okay. Well, and I can show that another time because I will be doing a demo of those two things. That was
Okay.
the aspect that took me the 3 years to get through my own head of, you know, what is it that Susan was looking at when she was doing her temperature sketches? You know, how was she making those decisions? And like anything else, when well, for me, I can't always think it through. I have to get an idea, like sort of a vague direction. And then once I start doing something, I realize that I'm having to make some decisions. So it's easier for me to talk my way through it when I'm actually trying to do it. If I'm sitting in you know in my car or sketching at a cafe and I'm looking out at things, what I first see is not what I end up seeing. And that's why sketching for me is really enlightening. It helps me to see what it is I'm looking at, uh, whether it's temperature sketch or not. I mean, I don't, I haven't done temperature sketches in a long time, so I'm just getting back to that too. But anytime that I'm sketching, I realize partway through that I'm seeing so much more. It's like going from an old 1950s television to what do they call those at the Max, the Cinemax or something, you know, where it goes all the way around you. That's kind of what the world does for me when I'm out sketching, when I'm not working from intuition and
Hmm.
imagination, but actually looking. Um, it just gets bigger and bigger. So do you have any questions on if you saw the videos from any of the color play? I don't know if you've taken a peek at those.
I haven't had a chance to do that.
Okay. Jill?
Yeah, well, I watched all of this week's. I can't remember about last week's. I asked you a question last week, didn't I, about the palette? Um, I
That was
just
the
love,
collage.
yeah, but I asked you about whether you put little bits of each of the three primaries
Oh,
as you went around the color wheel, but you explained that. I thought this week I loved the videos, particularly, well, I loved all three, but I loved the one in the middle, with the natural, with the landscape and all the leaves and
yeah.
loads of neutrals and the music. I mean, I just found the whole experience wonderful.
That's the one that I've been looking for the past, well, the half hour before I got on.
Oh, I thought it was
Not
fantastic.
sure where
Yeah.
that disappeared to. I know it has to be somewhere in this machine in front of me. Um, and I can,
You've got to, if it's still there, you've got to watch it because it's beautiful.
yeah. Well, it's still in color play for sure. It's in the course.
Right. Okay.
Uh, and I had to upload it from someplace, so I know that it exists.
Mm.
But what I was looking for was the keynote version of it because on Zoom, I still haven't figured out, this is another thing I should do, how I can play a video where the sound can also play without it being really awful. Remember, I've tried that before.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Mm.
in fact, let me see. Let me just try an experiment.
This video, Carol, has got Chris's photos, but it's natural things as opposed to man-made things. Lots
Oh,
of leaves, lots of very neutral greys and browns. Absolutely beautiful. And of course, the Aegean Sea. Who can forget the Aegean Sea? Um, yeah, beautiful. I still have problems. I have big problems with green. Carol, we had this discussion last week. Um, I have difficulty identifying warm and cool in green. In some colors, I think there's no doubt about it, and I understand that color is relative. But when I'm faced with a whole lot of greens, I have a problem. There it is.
Well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try playing it. And if the sound is really horrendous, I'll stop it.
we'll just turn off the sound.
Deal warm and cool aspects of color by simply going through your own photographs and looking at them
Can you hear that?
with the
Yep.
Yeah,
intention
yeah.
of observing the colors and how they respond to one another. What is it that you take photos of in terms of color? You may be taking photos of scenes, of people, of locations, but you may also have a tendency that you don't even realize to take photographs of high contrasts in color, high contrasts in temperature, or very subtle differences. You might be attracted to analogous warms and cools or full spectrum warms and cools. This week, I was really observing warm and cool temperature of colors in so many aspects that I've put together at least a dozen slideshows for myself, really looking at what I respond to and discovering new things every time I go through even the same photographs. So I highly recommend that you don't explore color just with your paints, but also with your camera, your photographs, your phone. You know, you have your phone with you almost all the time, most likely. And most of you are able to take photos with your phone. So just snap away because it doesn't cost you anything. And then look through them and see what you discover. If you can put together a slideshow of your own in some way or share a few of the photos that you see representing warm and cool aspects of color and how they play with each other, how they really make the others stand out. You know, how do they support one another? Take a look and see and share it with me. I would love to see what you're discovering about your own sense of color.
I think these leaf ones are just tremendous.
Yes.
That was in a puddle.
Yeah.
I have my own versions of these photos.
Yeah, I think we all do. Yeah.
Put them together into a slideshow.
Yeah.
Wow, that one's cool.
Mm.
That would make a great pencil drawing.
These were on my way to collect the skunk cabbage to make pigment. You can see I got carried away with this color theme.
They're so fabulous, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
And the shapes, I mean, nature just gives you every shape you could want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, oh gosh, I love that. I think that's upside down.
And on color play in art, there's beautiful music playing to this.
You aren't
slide.
hearing the music now?
No.
No,
Oh, here I am in ecstasy with the music.
I know the music
don't worry
is
about it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow,
Carol,
that is
please,
cool.
please watch it, Carol,
Oh, I
because
will. I'll definitely watch it.
with the music, it is just a wonderful experience.
Hmm.
I love that one.
That reminds me of the colors I used in my ceramics.
That beautiful blue of the rock.
Yeah.
And how different this looks from the next one, just because of that bright yellow.
Hmm.
that one. I'd
Mm.
love to do a painting based on,
I'm like, whoa.
yeah. Okay.
We
Oh, I'm
missed
so
that music.
sorry you didn't have the music. It
Oh, it's
really,
all right. I'll
Just
listen to
wonderful
it.
music. So tell me, could you go to one of the greens? So, for instance, the corn, is that corn or the cactus or one of the
yes.
Gills landscapes?
Yep. Hold on.
And then you two can tell me which you think are the warm and which are the cool.
Okay.
This is not my strong point either, Jill.
This is a test. This is a test.
Uh,
It's a test of Chris's computer skills.
um, oh,
It's with the rocks, it was easy,
I
wasn't it? They
know, but that's the
were
problem.
clearly,
I couldn't find that.
clearly warm and cool, but
Oh, well,
just
how about that? Is that just there are different slideshows that I have here, and some have some greens like this one. How about
yeah, let's do that one.
okay.
Yeah. Come on then.
All right.
So what's warm and what's cool? I would say that the left-hand one in total is warmer than the right-hand one. And that's
Yes.
as far as I'm going to go.
Okay. So I would agree with that.
Let you two experts tell me.
Oh, I am no expert about this, but my take on, is the same, that the right one is cool and the other one is warm, but the cool places in the left one are in the shadows.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so if you zoom in on it more. All right, so here. Now, this is what happens. Let's say you wanted to paint that. Well, what would you do to create those colors? If you had this, you can see the arrow, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so see right in here,
Mm-hmm.
Jill, would you say that that has
Oh,
more yellow than this?
yes.
We're just going to talk yellow and blue, okay?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Definitely more yellow than blue. Yeah.
Okay, so what that means is that this, if it has more blue in it,
It's cooler.
it's cooler. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now we're looking at this part right here.
Right.
Now,
The gap between the little veins.
yes. Does that
Okay.
have more blue or more yellow
Then what?
than
Than where
this?
we just were.
Than this?
Oh my goodness. It's got less of everything. That's the whole point. It's
Well,
paler, isn't
yes, the value is also lighter, but
it?
the
I would
color,
say it's got less. If I look back to the bit nearest the stalk,
this.
it's got less yellow. It's got a
Yes.
lot less yellow. So is it cool?
This is
Yeah.
definitely cooler than this.
And that, yes.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
let's jump over to here for a minute. This is
Mm.
warmer or cooler than this?
Well, I'm not sure which bit you're sort of pointing to.
This
Bit.
part,
I would have
okay,
said it's cool. That's cool.
cooler than this, yes?
That, yes.
Okay. So what about, is this cooler
Yeah.
or warmer than this?
Warmer.
Right. Okay. So we can't say this, if you had that mixed in a little puddle on your palette. I mean, there's no point in calling it warm or cool because it depends on what it's mixed.
Relative. It's relative. Yeah.
All relative.
But
Down
it got
here.
cooler when there was more blue and less yellow.
Yes. Yes. And so in here, even though it's darker, if you look at this still has even more blue.
Mm.
So we determined, okay, we thought, okay, well, that's a cool green. Well,
Mm.
yes, it was in relation to this and this. I wouldn't call it a warm uh, green necessarily, but definitely when we looked at this whole thing, all of this gave us a warmer feel than this.
Mm,
If you look at this leaf over on the right side here, and
mm,
you compare that leaf to this leaf, which is somewhat similar,
yeah.
except clearly the lighting was different. Um,
Mm.
this whole thing is
It's warmer.
definitely warmer than this.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
This is really much warmer than most of the rest of it. If we took this leaf out of that photograph and plopped it over here, it
It
might
would.
look really cool. I would think it would look really cool. In fact, that
Yeah.
might be an
I get all of that. I get all of that. Yeah. Mm.
So, does that answer the quandary?
Yeah. Yeah. I get all of that. I just don't find it so easy when I'm looking at a landscape to decide. So that if it's bluer, it's cooler,
Yes.
basically,
I
relatively to anything near it.
I picture it on the color wheel. That's how I floundered through the whole warm and cool aspect of things. I think, is it here or is it here, even with the neutrals going in? And in doing so, it makes it so much easier to mix the color you want because you're not, again, you're not going by formulas that you read in books, or just, I mean, you can say yellow and blue, but that's like saying red and blue make violet. And we know that a phthalo blue and a cadmium red is going to make brown. It's never going to make violet.
Mm.
So you have to think, are the two pigments that you're mixing together closer together or further apart? If you want something more neutralized, you want them to be further apart. This is if you're mixing two pigments, not a third pigment, because it's easier to just work with two pigments and really understand that you are adding the third pigment because the further away they get, they both end up having more yellow or more they have more of the
Oh,
primary that you
third.
don't think of.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if yellow's here
Mm.
and okay, we're backwards here. So, okay. So red, oh, I can never figure out the camera. Red is here and blue is here.
Yeah.
Yellow, red, blue. So
Yeah.
to mix a violet, you want your reds and blues to be really close. And the further away they get, the more yellow this has and the more yellow this has. So the further away they get, the more neutralized that violet is because those wavelengths are being canceled out. The closer they are, which also means that you can just go one direction. Let's say you want it to be neutralized, but you want it to be more on the blue side of violet, but neutralized. So you just move this one away a little bit, adding a little bit of red, but keeping your blue just the same. As you move this way into red violets, you're adding more yellow, basically. Does that make sense? So anywhere you are, if you can picture where the pigment or looking at the landscape, if it's a certain green, and this is great to do too, because you realize how many neutrals there are out there that you're calling kind of primaries, but they're really so much more neutralized. But then you know how to make them beautiful neutrals because you're not you're thinking of a neutralized violet or a neutralized blue-green, not thinking in terms of browns and grays. And when I know when I look out at the hillside and I'm watching it gain spring color now, going from winter into spring. But when I look at that, it changes throughout the day, but in the early morning, it's still been full of blue violets and red violets, more red violets as the buds start to come out. And then, in the as it moves toward summer, skipping the multicolors of maybe spring, but it's going to turn into all those different greens. But they're going to be neutralized most likely.
Mm.
If you have a house, and this goes back to man-made things being in a landscape of natural things, and sometimes, if you painted it that way, it would just be hideous because the man-made colors don't really harmonize well with nature often. Um, but nature harmonizes with itself. So you're going to see that those greens that you think of in your mind, like, oh, that looks like an emerald green tree, or leaves in the middle of summer. If you look at the tree that's closer to you, the ones in the distance are very neutralized. So you can make them full of beautiful color, but neutralized, not by killing them, by adding a whole lot of red to it, but just by moving in different directions on the color wheel with the pigments you're using. A touch of this, a touch of that. Um, that's where the class, not too many people take because it's pretty tedious, but the mixing gorgeous colors, that goes through every little step of mixing um, primaries and secondaries to get gorgeous tertiaries and neutrals. Um, but it's kind of like you have to be dedicated to color charting, though it's in a star, it's more like in a mandala shape um, than a color chart, just to make it more fun. Um, I hope that didn't get too technical.
No, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Simplifying to two pigments helps so much.
Mm.
And working with just two pigments for a whole week, if in a little color practice, not and I try again to encourage that just a little bit of something every day that's apart from everything else will will add up to huge progress. Um, like I said, just putting the slideshow together after all these years, even, I see more and more, and it makes me smile because I realize that I've learned so much more since the time that I started looking at all of this.
Mm.
Yeah, and this example of the two greens, it's same plant, same time.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and this was in Liverpool. Um,
Mm.
the one was in shade and the other was in sunlight.
Mm.
So sometimes when you look at paintings, especially in local, I hate to say this, local art exhibits, which can be fabulous. I don't mean it that way, but you can't really tell what the light source was or what time of day it was or
Mm.
what the mood was. The trees are green, sky is blue, all of those things, everything is the right color, but the nuance of lighting is either inconsistent because somebody learned how to mix a beautiful color for a barn and didn't alter it with whatever illumination
Mm.
they they had in their painting. In plein air, it's really, really important to make note um, of what color the sun was and what color the sky was when you start your painting, because those colors will change. That's often why, the contests are just an hour and a half because the light changes so much. The color of the sun changes and the color of the sky. And everything is affected by the color of the sun and the reflection of the color of the sky because the sky is illuminating all the grass under the tree too that is in shadow. So your shadows are all illuminated by the sky because it's like one huge illuminator.
Mhm.
So
So I have a question.
Yeah.
It's related, but it's something that I was observing about color when I was walking, and it was at dusk.
mhm.
So there is not the illumination is just very generalized. And I was looking at some pine trees because this was like a couple weeks ago, so there are no leaves. And I was looking at some big tall pines and looking at them and going, am I really seeing them as being a deep green, or am I imagining that they're deep green because I know my mind says trees are green?
Well, that's where your little filters come in.
So, but it was so fascinating to like look at them and like try and find something to, compare it with. It's like, okay,
Right,
well, that
right.
was so, they were so dark. I mean, because it was getting dark enough so that the pine trees were like this really, I think, deep, deep green.
Now, are you
It was,
talking about the needles? Or are you talking about the trunk or which part of?
I'm talking about like the tops of the trees, like looking at the landscape, in a nearby field. It wasn't like super far away. And just seeing the tops of the trees and going, are they really green? Is that really green? And I'd have to say, I think it was really green, but it was so little green.
Yeah,
It was just more like a really dark,
like a
dark.
green black.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
right.
But I was trying to find something that was real that I could say was, I know that they're green when it's lit, but when it's not lit, it just was so fascinating to me as to whether I could make up the color with my mind.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And that's again, you can shift it and you may, I mean, what I experience is when I shift a color, I'm surprised that the other colors shift with it. Now, I don't know how that works. Um, but I know uh, when this started, I was at a bank. Well, I was trying to find color where I didn't think there was color, and there was a shadow underneath the car in a parking lot. So it was a macadam parking lot. And I looked at it and it looked gray. It just looked gray. I thought, well, that's just gray. But I thought there has to be more color to it. So I looked and looked and looked, and it just really took me a long time. I went and parked my car and to look more because I was in the drive up window and I couldn't just sit there all day. Um, and I finally started to see, whether I really did or not, some dark, dark blues. It started to take on color, and it was very thrilling to me. This goes way back when I first started to try to see, um, why some painters would paint tree trunks and they had all these marvelous colors in them, and I just didn't see all those colors. So I was trying to see them, just like you looking at the green. Do you see
Right.
the green or not? And probably depends on how dusk it was. If there's still any light at all, then there may have been a touch of green. But remember that we only see color because light waves bounce off of the object, off of the pine tree, and come, and our eye translates that into a color. So when there's not much, that's why we don't see color at night, um, unless the moon is out, and the moon is a reflector of the sunlight. So, it's shedding light our way. We get color from reflected light in addition to the sunlight. If you're walking down a street and there's a sidewalk with a brick wall next to it and the sun is shining on the brick wall, if you look at the shadow of whatever, maybe shadow of a tree or shadow of something, you will see that it has a tint of the brick wall
Mhm.
because that is an illuminator into the shadow.
Right.
Mm.
You saw that on some of your photographs.
Yes, yeah. And that's why if you go back and look at your own photographs from wherever, you can play that game with yourself. You can start to see what your brain didn't tell you before, but saw. So is it that you're making up the fact that it's green, or are you really training your your brain to translate better, to understand what your eye is translating better? I don't know what the answer is to that. All I care is that I'm seeing more color, and I'm happy about that. And keep looking at dusk, and then look around to see what it's next to. It's going to change it. Um, and I find if I'm really tired, sometimes things simply look gray. It takes energy to
Mhm.
observe some of these colors. And the green, if it's against the sky, which is also darkening and getting to be, well, I don't know what color your dusk was. Um, but that's going to change the response of the green too. And there you're going to have, is the green cooler? Is the green warm? Is it against a warmer blue sky? Who cares? Just it's asking the questions
Mhm.
and then making a decision if you're painting it, which way you're going to go. Because you can flip it around if you want. You can change it. And then if you see it and say, oh, well, that's not it, then you've just realized that maybe you wanted the reverse of what you did. Um, it's just we'll never be bored ever in our lives. It's just too much fun. Um, think of gray days and
Yeah.
how the trees that might be bright green normally, how everything just looks dulled.
Mm.
They don't have the light. You've got filtered light coming through overcast. You don't have the color of the sky. You don't have like blues or anything reflecting down. You've just got grays of clouds reflecting down. So you have illumination without the color waves of the sun to bounce back. You don't have the prismatic waves. You've got mushed together waves that are already neutralized that are reflecting back.
So then in the fall, when all the leaves turn colors, on a bright day, they look of course, they look bright. But sometimes on a rainy day or a cloudy day, they look more brilliant than
Mhm.
they did with the sun on them.
Well, that's usually if they're wet.
I was going to say it's the wet, isn't it? Makes them
Yes.
shine.
Yes, they reflect more. So it's like having magnifying glasses on everything.
Right, right. I never
The
thought about that.
Yeah, just like the tree trunks. Oh, I love tree trunks after it rains because yeah, you see colors that you just don't see when they're dry. And one thing I love about the dyeing of fabrics or the pigment making is because when it's wet, they're just so amazing. And then they dry and it's like, well, where did the color go? They're
Right.
just they're still beautiful, but I just sit down there and watch them dry at times because I know that unless I wet the fabric again, I won't see that color. It has to be wet.
Mm.
And I don't know, that probably doesn't apply in the same way with the reflected light, certainly not magnifying of it. I'm not sure why that really is the way it is. Um, but I think in the fall that's what happens. There's moisture. Even if it's in the air, it's amplifying.
Mm.
Yeah. Just fascinating. I'm constantly, daily fascinated by what I see. In the one that I showed, I don't really like the photograph of it, but I thought it was pretty amazing. The one where the tree had been cut, it probably was, one that fell down. It was bright orange inside.
Mm.
That was just a striking difference. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Carol?
No.
Let me just quickly pop that up because that's worth looking at again. Oh, no. Um, no, that was in the video that I showed. You'll see it. You'll see it if you go back and listen to the one with the music.
Okay.
The other one, the urban one, has music too. It just, it kind of, I like doing it that way because then you kind of just get into that flow and I think you observe more. Thank you for mentioning the music, Jill. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, it was just a lovely experience. Beautiful music and these beautiful slides. Can I mention the name of an artist?
Yes.
Because Carol, Chris, and I are both taking this online history of art course or set of lectures. And one of them is on women artists. And number 8, Chris, jump straight to 8
Okay.
because it's standalone, it doesn't matter. And it's Gwen John.
Oh,
Hmm.
Okay. Now, she's actually Welsh, or she was Welsh, although she worked most of her life in Paris. But I'd like you to just look at her colour palette
okay.
because if you want to celebrate just beautiful, soft
Gwen what?
Gwen John, John,
Okay.
wife of Augustus John. I mean, one of the most beautiful pictures in this slideshow that I saw is actually in MoMA in New York. So she is an international artist. But her colours, just look a few of them up.
Okay.
And
Is
I
she
was,
someone that you would like to take a look at more work?
well, eventually we could, but you look at, I found it quite a struggle because it's been quite sort of way back in history, and I can't say that I'm as interested in 16th and 17th and 18th century portraiture and things. It doesn't grab me, but this one, Gwen John, um, but it was just her palette because today I watched it today and having tuned in to both neutrals and color temperature,
Uh-huh.
her work is just full of examples of both of those. So
Wow.
just have a look. Mm.
That's another slideshow that I am putting together. It's photographs of works that I've photographed in museums. Um, because shortly after I took that workshop with Susan Abbott, and then I was painting with her in Provence. So I'd been struggling with this for a while, and then I don't recall which museum it was, but I looked and I saw that so much of the I think it was 18th century work when they really didn't have a lot of colors to work
Mm.
with in the palette, I don't think. And they had to make all their own paints. So many were basically ultramarine blue and raw sienna because you can combine those and you can pretty much create the effect or the illusion of a full palette. But for the first time, I saw what minimal palettes they used. And there might have been just a touch of something redder, but they looked beautifully full spectrum. And when I was in Maryland just last week or when I was dog sitting, they have a lot of beautiful children's illustration, all over, and um, really fabulous artists. And I realized that a lot of that was also basically ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, variations of that, but super warm and super cool, which early on was part of the printing situation where it would be two color and you would take a warm color and a cool color, and when you overprinted them, you would get all the variations of the combination.
Mm.
So I think it's worth looking at something that's just focused on that to recognize how much you can do with two pigments, a warm pigment and a cool pigment. Um, yeah, so I will take a look at her palette, and hopefully I'll be catching up with my recordings of those
If you
lectures.
want to, it won't hurt you to jump to number 8,
No, no,
weekend,
I can easily jump.
because it's a completely different thing from before.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it was just that the painting struck me as being just about what you're doing at the moment, I think.
Great, great.
And
Well,
I think Carol would enjoy the palette.
Yeah, I just am looking at one that's in the wiki art, and it's a picture of like just a corner of a room or
Mm.
part of a room, and there's beautiful wicker chair that's almost the same color as the wall. That's
Yeah,
like
it's
a mottled
very,
color,
very, very
and then
pale.
very mottled and pale curtains over, but translucent curtains. But on the desk in front of the window and on the chair, there is something blue,
Mm,
and
mm,
it really pops. And the very bottom of the wall, where it's not on a slant, has got that same blue in it. It's really gorgeous.
mm. Yeah, have a look through some of her images. I wish I could remember the one that's in New York, because the colors were just, I mean, there was more there was more color than the one probably you're looking at, but still very neutralized color. Just beautiful.
when I take a look at it, I'll take a screenshot of it.
You'll know what I mean when you get there. It's a woman standing up and she's got, yeah, it's just beautiful colors.
Great.
Neutralized version of what you're wearing now.
Yeah, I'm going through. Oh, this, speaking of that, this is left over from Cowboy Cowgirl Night square dancing the other day. And I did take it off.
Very
It's not
good.
like I wore it the
Very
whole
good.
time,
Very
but
good.
it was just sitting on a chair
Yes.
when I put this on. I'm trying to use the clothes in my closet, and if not, pass them along. So I thought, well,
Mm,
I'll just be a cowgirl again today.
yeah.
Kick up my heels.
You're a picture of color. Picture of color.
So we will meet again on Monday
With our black wing
with our
pencil.
black wing pencils, and we will play. Um, in the meantime, I do have intentions, though not really strong intentions, of putting up a challenge, but don't expect it very soon. I keep getting ideas in terms of the warm and cool sketches, but I think that's due to come soon, the demo of the difference between the two sketches, because that really helps. Um, it that too helps you to look out and think about warms and cools uh, first in big ways, and then you start perceiving them in much smaller ways. And in going over the leaves that we did earlier about which were cooler and which were warmer,
Yes.
for
I
me
am just
it
looking
made a
at
difference when I was
Mm,
actually painting something, especially when I was being very diligent about my perpetual plant journal, to make those little tiny changes in an area that I thought, oh, that's all sort of one, say a pink petal. I might put a wash over the whole pink petal and I may not drop as many little changes within it. But when I would do that and have some just tiny bit more, um, leaning more toward the red or toward the blue, it just became so much more poetic. Made a big difference. Even if somebody looked at it, they'd think I just mixed up one big wash and applied it to it.
Yeah.
But it was, and that too, just it reminded me that little tiny shifts can make a huge uh, difference in the emotional response someone has to a work of art. Um, Kind of snags you a little bit more. So, any last questions before we close for today? Thank you. I love
No, that
these.
was fun.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to be inspired to go through my thousands of photographs and start picking out, because I've already had this intention to go through them and pick out the things that I have taken that are more abstractions, like a close up of something, so that I don't know what it, I ask them often, I'll show them to somebody and they can't guess what it is right off the bat, that kind of stuff. And so I thought, wow, I really would like to have them where I can look at them together
Yes.
and sort of see how over the years my eye has changed around that.
Well, this is, I mean, uh, I'm asked often because I spend a lot of time at the computer. I would still spend a lot of time at the computer even if I wasn't doing the classes and all, simply because the slideshows I put together, I basically am doing them for myself. And then I find them great to share and great teaching tools. But it's going through and reinforcing the experience, reinforcing what, what shapes were there that inspired me to take it. I mean, that's how I discovered I love plumbing so much. Like, oh my goodness, why am I taking so many photographs of rusty plumbing in places? But so it does make you realize where uh, how your attention gets snagged.
Yeah.
And then I end up with all these different folders. But this time I was shocked at how many I thought were analogous. But I found somewhere in there was a little bit of a color that was a complement of one of those analogous colors. And it wasn't that big. So I thought, oh, well, that's, just so minor, which is true. You can still call that analogous. But it came to my mind that just that, like the flick of red that brings it to life, without that little bit somewhere, it was almost boring. But that tiny little bit of a subtle compliment to one of the things that we're singing and dancing and, being loud about the vision is what made them all shine.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
makes perfect.
painters use it all the time. I mean,
Exactly.
so
And yet I had pulled them out. I quickly pulled them out to all go in the analogous. And it was just in the weeding out. I did weed out a lot though. It didn't
right.
seem like it.
When does I can't say it, analogous become extended analogous?
Well, that's up for grabs too. I mean, you can think of analogous as being blue, violet, violet, red, violet.
So 3.
Well, yes, but that's on a color wheel that includes red, violet, and blue, violet. But you might have a color wheel that's just the primaries and secondaries. And then yellow, green, and blue would be
Okay.
considered
Yeah.
analogous.
Yeah.
Okay, but you would only have either two primaries and a secondary or two secondaries and a primary.
Okay.
If it goes beyond that, then it would be considered an extended analogous. But again, it's just words that we
Yeah, it is just words, and I get caught up with words, but I
yeah.
do understand what analogous means. But yeah,
So it would
and
not go, okay, how about this? It would not go so far that the color over here would be a complement of any of the colors.
then that becomes complementary.
Well,
Not quite because you're using the ones in between. Yeah.
right. That and,
Oh,
and in the color scheme game, there's one number 7, I think that, excuse me, it's and it excuse me, it's an extended analogous
yeah.
with 3 complements. So the extended
But it's not
analogous
practically
here
everything.
Yeah.
and there. So it's really just minus 2 colors. And so for me, I'll say, okay, and it does, it really works well. So which 2 colors am I going to eliminate? And then it's easier to keep that in mind. And it usually works fine. But I don't see, I had to force myself to do that because I don't think in restrictions that way.
No. And which was the color mixing glorious color?
Oh,
Did you say?
glorious color, I think, or
I'll have a look at that.
color
Yeah.
101, how to mix glorious color. You'll see it. And it's a star in a circle with lots of things around. Oh,
Hmm.
nice. Yeah.
That's the one that's in MoMA. And I don't think on the screen those colors look in the slideshow, but look it up. And that's more of a contrast than her paintings usually are, but they're just beautiful color schemes.
So that from the way it looks, and I'm not sure.
That is Gwen John, Girl with a Blue Scarf. And she
That would,
didn't date any of her pictures, so art historians have had to sort of work it out according to how she was working. That's 1915 to 1920. She didn't take 5 years to paint it, but they can't. From what I'm seeing on the screen, I don't think it's very, but look that one up.
okay. Now, is the background, is the wall kind of a yellowish or not?
Mm, it's a yellow, it's a grey, but there's a warm and a cool.
Right. And I was going to say
This
that looks like it would be
this,
analogous with one
this
complement.
is much warmer than the rest of it, which I don't know whether you can get on there. But when I was looking at it today,
Look
and
at,
it's like an
but
abstract painting at the back.
but look at
Yeah.
this. She's using the same
Yes, yeah, that
red
comes up several times, doesn't it? Yeah.
with with the
She sort of,
blue. So it's a lot the same color scheme as the
yeah,
other one.
Yeah.
yeah, you'll find that she's got a
Fascinating.
particular palette that, yeah, with it just fits in with what we've been discussing, I feel. You know, when I saw it this morning, I thought, this is very, very appropriate
Yeah.
somehow. And also, this is an art historian that lives in Chepstow, and her name is Eleanor, what's her surname?
Bird.
Bird, Eleanor Bird. She's very good. And we're also doing the modern art one, and she's just done modernism. And so when she was talking about Gwen John, which is a different set of lectures, but she was talking about bits of it being very modernist, you know, just looking at shapes and flattening things out and et cetera, et cetera. But
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to
that's
go. I'm getting a phone call.
start,
Okay.
See you
All right.
soon.
See you Monday.
okay, bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.